Welcome to the Ultra Ascent Podcast. Your hosts, Alex Proctor and Mark Dowdle, are two aspiring professional runners with the goal to take you on a journey of making that dream a reality. You'll be given an inside look to what life is like as an unsponsored athlete and all the trials and tribulations that it entails. Along the way, they'll share how they train, what races and challenges are currently on their calendar, and how they aim to land support from brands. Alex intends to dominate in the professional trail running sector, taking souls and finishing on top the podium at the most premier trail races around the world, while Mark seeks to find new ways to discover the unknown and self-made, not yet accomplished ultra distance challenges. Let's get into the show. Co-host myself, Mark, and Alex Proctor. It's been a minute, Alex. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We're back to our regular scheduled programming, though. I can take the blame for those YouTube videos not being uploaded. Episode 6 and 7, we had those in the hopper, but now we're back. New year, we're back. We're getting on a schedule. We're gonna start recording once a week again, and putting out some good content. Getting back on the train. We had some good momentum last year. Started off posting in November, got 5 episodes out, so proud of that. But, there's a lot of progress to be made in terms of us staying consistent with it. And, the holidays can be to blame for that. That's no excuse. Like, we had the time to do it. So,
yeah. And I think the big takeaway is like we took this idea and we put action behind it, and now it's like how can we build structure behind it, and that's what we're going to do and build for it in 2025. So exciting stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I think in most cases, like in most projects that I have ideas about or creative endeavors, I'm oftentimes just paralyzed by paralyzed to start. So doing this and, having your help alongside, pushing us to get it out and to record these is something that I'm very appreciative of. And I know that we can, build off of into the future. And, starting today, I'm excited for this episode. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to recap, probably a jam-packed episode. We got some good topics to go over. Nothing too controversial, unless you want to bring up some things, but, I guess there's one thing that's probably controversial to a select group of people, a niche group of people, if they're listening. But otherwise, you want to jump into how your holidays were and some of the things that you did, checking up on family and that type of thing.
Yeah, it was a big holiday. So the last 3 months of my training for Arrowhead coming up were just Calendar Club, October, November, December, and going into particularly Christmas time with the family and running 175 miles during the week that I was home was going to be a bit of a messy situation because I have a sister who's pregnant, who came in from Boston. I've got a brother who has 2 twin girls, and his wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. I got a sister who's in Chicago as well. And so my older sister had kind of made a note of hope that I wouldn't be doing Calendar Club for the month of December, knowing that the miles pack up at the end of the month. And this could potentially be the last Christmas or the last Christmas in a few years that we're all together under the same roof. So there was obviously some tension of like, okay, I still need to get the miles in because my goal, my profession, although I'm not getting paid in the same way that like my sister or my brother are for their job, the work still needs to get done for the goals that I have. So I knew that I wasn't going to compromise completely on the running aspect, but I think doing it in a way that was different than last year was like I was just going to get up super early in the morning and get the miles done so that I could spend the afternoon and rest of the day with the family. And that's not something I'm particularly used to. I'm more of a midday to afternoon runner. So I think the takeaway for me this holiday season, this Christmas season is like if you got a goal and you say it means something to you, then you'll find a way to get it done. And to me, it was making that sacrifice of getting up at 5:30 in the morning, getting out the door by 6:30, 7 o'clock, and just burying through the miles so that I could spend time with family. And I think for the most part, it worked out beautifully. And I just super grateful it was an opportunity where I was like super grateful that I had running, because I think when you spend time at home with family for a week, um, it's just everybody knows like you just it you're all under the same roof. Tensions run in many different directions, so having that space where I could go spend 5 6 hours on my own, I was super grateful for it, and it allowed me to be more present and appreciative for the time with family. So my holiday season, Christmas break, was great for both of those reasons, I would say. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of travel back home to Chicago. You also did some travel back home to Minnesota. We are, two ships passing in the night, didn't get a chance to see each other, but how was your time home with your family?
It was great, yeah. Hadn't seen them in a while since the wedding celebration in September, so it had been a few
Mm,
months, not too long, but it was good to see them again. It reminded me that I should do a better job of calling them and checking in with them when I'm not with them, because I enjoy their company so much that I know that Natalie does this a lot better job with her family of staying connected, almost calling her parents every day. And I want to have that connection with my parents and my family as well, and that they know all my friends' names, they know everything that's going on, and just keeping them in the loop, because I feel like I, at the very least, owe that to them. So I guess spending time with them was cool. My siblings are awesome, Julia and Weston, and then her boyfriend Tyson is a sweet dude too. Super cool that he's um, taking on her baggage. No, I'm kidding. Um, which is awesome. But we spend a lot of time playing board games, and that's not something I usually spend too much time doing while we're here in Salt Lake and on the trails. But when things are pretty bleak and we have a lot of family time, it's bleak outside. We have a lot of family time. Um, we tend to turn towards board games because I think we're all competitive in one way or another, which is pretty funny. And we ended up playing a game called Double Ditto, which if you're in a family setting, I recommend it for anyone out there. It's pretty funny. The premise is that there's a cue card or a question card that's like name two sea animals, and each person around the table writes down two just two sea animals that they can think of, and the goal is to match your answer with at least one other person so that you can cross it out if you match up after the timer's done. So you get 15 seconds to name those. At the end, I say like walrus and seal. If one person around the table says walrus, I can cross it off and I get a point. If someone says seal, like say my mom said seal, I cross it off and I get 3 points total. So I get 3 points for that round. And some of the answers that came from that game were from my sister and my sister's boyfriend especially were hilarious. I don't know. Okay, here's one that is pretty funny that I can say on the podcast. So um, the question was name a dirty job, and she was the person that was first in this question order. So I had written down like plumber or janitor or garbage man, one of those two or three. I forgot what it was. And she comes out with explanation. She says stripper. We were all dying after we were laughing our butts off, and we were like, I mean, I guess that
That's a
technically is
dirty
a
job.
dirty job, but one we didn't really expect to hear from the youngest sister, which was hilarious. But yeah, it was cool, bonding with them and spending time and playing a lot of different games. My mom is a hoot. Like once she gets on this train of ordering stuff from Amazon, she just starts pumping it off. So we had like 3 or 4 or 5 different board games we ended up playing and trying out, and one that was most popular is probably Sequence, just because you can just shoot the crap and you know just play, and it's kind of mindless, but it also gives you something to do while you're just talking and spending time together. So that was fun. um, Another thing that I thought was very very important was all of us syncing up with our faith,
Mm,
and something that we as a family haven't really talked about much at all throughout our family's history together. So I thought collectively it was awesome to pray over our meals together. I was the one to lead the prayer, and bless the meals for dinner and breakfast. And it was cool that we all aligned. And I ended up going to my first Christmas Eve service, church service which was really awesome. I mean, to people out there that, might not necessarily believe or have faith, it might not seem that major, but together as a family, like doing that and kind of aligning together and, having that faith together makes that bond so much stronger. And it really felt cool to do that and, spend time together in the church and meet the pastor there. And as far as running goes, it was enjoyable. Yeah, we spent a lot more time on the roads than I'm used to. My knees and my knees and my shins honestly started to be a little bit more sore in the following days after running the roads. But usually I'd run either early morning or late at night with Natalie, because the whole rest of the day we're spending time with family, or that was spent playing board games. So didn't really get to see much of the daylight in Minnesota besides, one Saturday when I should have been at the run and plunge. We can transition into that topic, but I ended up spending about 18 miles out on the trails at Murphy Hanrahan Park, which is one that I hadn't explored yet. It's in, I believe, Burnsville. Pretty good park. I would compare it to Highland Hills without the big ski hill. So
Okay.
everything else that Highland has to offer, like not really technical trails, kind of just like almost mowed and horse trails, which was fun. It was sloppy, good to get out there in the sun. I think it was the first time or the only time that the sun had shown in Minnesota, so that was quite the shock to us. Being in Salt Lake City, it's almost sunny here every day, so we kind of felt that, and felt for our family that are there right now, and it's bleak, and
Yeah.
it is what it is. But I know that some people, I know it affected me quite substantially when I was there in terms of having seasonal depression in some way or another. But yeah, overall it was a great trip back. I should have linked up with you for some miles. I think why I didn't was it was probably selfish. Quite honestly, I've been trying to stick to my training plan that my coach has written out as strict as possible, and I think that has started to. I'm not sure honestly if it's a detriment or if it's a positive. I think that in one way, I'm starting to feel more disciplined, and I'm able to transition that into other parts of my life because, quite honestly, in the past month or so, I haven't really felt motivated to run at all. Even the trails aren't really doing it for me.
Yeah.
But with this feeling of discipline and sticking to the plan, like directly to the plan and not deviating from it, I've gained this newfound discipline where no matter how I feel, it's not even a question. I don't even think twice. I just put my shoes on and go.
Yeah.
And then I get out there and I'm good to go. Like there isn't a moment where I'd think about not running because I'm not feeling like it anymore, which is like a positive, but it also I think is inhibiting me from making more connections and spending more time with friends on runs. I did that a few times when I was back, but I think it's being able to stick to a program. It's harder to get people to stick to yours.
Yeah.
So I didn't want people to feel that obligation to hang on to me or run at my pace. So I kind of just wanted to do things solo. So that's probably one of the reasons why I didn't hit you up or I didn't run with you guys at the run and plunge. I'm just trying to avoid injury as we get closer. I'm getting into mileage here that I haven't really experimented with for this extended amount of time. The past 2 weeks I've hit 80 miles a week per week, and then these next 3 weeks are going to be even bigger, and I guess my body just hasn't experienced that before. So any extra stuff my coach is kind of telling me to lay off of, we're laying off of weights, and I'm done here in a second, but laying off of weights, skiing for now, for the most part, and anything like extracurricular, kind of just dialing it in and wanting to show up at Black Canyon the best I can be, and hopefully compete with some of the pros out there in one way or another. So yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I was on the phone with a friend yesterday, and he was talking about how he wanted to make some drastic lifestyle changes going into 2025. And I just told him something that helped me is like, this is not a quote of me, it's something that I heard, but like, your greatest yes is your no. So, like, if you want to,
Hmm.
go after goals, if you want to do things in life, like, really protecting that no and utilizing it is your greatest asset. And like, you feel like you don't know if it's something that is restricting you or not allowing you to experience or connect with other people. I guess you won't know the answer to that until after race day and you see how that plan comes to full term. But you have to see that plan to its fullest to even know if that worked for you or not. So, I appreciate that, and I take I take no qualms about that. But Christmas season turned to the new year, and New Year's a time to reflect, and so we want to reflect on some of the things that we did in 2024, starting with our biggest adversity or something that we overcame in 2024. Maybe it's one thing, maybe it's two things. It could be running specific or otherwise. But what do you think? I guess first in the running world, what do you think was the biggest thing you overcame in 2024, reflecting back?
In terms of running, that's a good one. The first part of the year went pretty smoothly. Training wise for Boston went well. The race at Boston went well. Um,
That doesn't even
the,
feel like last
I
year.
know, I know. Feels crazy. Yeah, first time racing Boston, that was awesome. One of the top three moments of my life. Um, Training and running the Grandma's Half Marathon went well. I think the biggest adversity I faced running wise was during the Never Summer 100K. I went into it thinking that, top 10, top five would be a good goal. And it ended up being a good goal. I think it was very much in the cards that day. Um, but I ended up, I think, biting off more than I could chew in terms of what um, the race involved. I wasn't prepared to run for 13 to 17 hours at 10,000 feet and above in altitude. I didn't prepare properly for that. I didn't train properly in terms of getting enough elevation gain. So I guess getting into mile 50 out of 65, um, picking up a pacer there, my friend John, and almost feeling the guilt of not being able to run those last 15 miles in with someone that had, is coming in cold, was expecting to run. Um, and having to walk that in and feeling sick, chafe all up the wazoo in my bosom and undercarriage, um, really, really was something I had to push through. I could have dropped out at mile 50 and called it a day, um, and you know did what I did, but I knew Natalie and John had been waiting there all day just to see me, and John had been waiting all day to run. So at least giving him that adventure together and spending that time together was something I felt was really important to see through in the finish, even if we had to walk it in the freezing rain and the hail and the snow, like the lightning, everything, the chafe that I couldn't, run out of. Um, hashtag stay hard. But yeah, that was something that really, I think, affected me, but it also led me to um, success at the Grindstone race this year because I was able to build off that and learn from that, and then it led me to hiring a coach, which I think helped me out immensely. What was some adversity that you had to face, I guess, this year when it comes to running?
Yeah, I when I reflect back on 2024, I feel like I had a lot of fun running, particularly in the summer runs where I just grabbed the stroller and ran, across states and just camped out. So it felt like it was more of a fun year in terms of not feeling completely challenged by running. I'd say the biggest moment in running, the most adversity I overcame was that February double down month of doing calendar club outside. It feels like so long ago too, but like February, running full calendar club outside on the treadmill, outside and on the treadmill. It just, oh man, that last week, those last few days, I was looking back at some videos of me just being angry. I waged war against the rabbits that were outside because I was so sleep deprived that running at like 1 a.m. and seeing these shadows just dart out of the corner of my eye, just I got so pissed off by it. But I think that was a good opportunity. Like I reflect on like there's two reasons why I did that. One is because something ignites in me when people tell me I can't do something or I won't do something. I love how that presents an opportunity for me to find where the truth is, because it's like this place where it's like, okay, I believe I can do something. Other people believe I can't do something, and now I can allow action to determine reality. Like, where is the truth? Because I'm not really here to allow my words to be the fullest extent of what I believe. I really want to build what I believe based on what I'm capable of doing, even if that means that I come away and I failed at something. So I love when that opportunity presents itself where I can allow the action to determine reality. And then secondly, I'd say like being 10 months, because I was 10 months into the Calendar Club Challenge for the year at that point, with 2 months ago, felt myself coasting and felt like I think it's important that, especially for guys like us or people that have goals, whether it is to run their first marathon, whether it is to do their 100 mile or whatever it is in the sport or in life, that we determine the guidelines for success, victory, and failure. And I think it's also on us to take a step back when we feel like our original goals are no longer challenging us and find a way to dig deeper, because if we really have this intent and intention to find out what we're truly capable of, then we have to be willing to say, I'm made of more, and I need to dig deeper and go to that reservoir even more to find out. I need to be willing to find out, even if that means kind of risking it all, even if that means failing at the original goal. Because the goal, if a goal doesn't challenge you and you get to the end of it and you knew you could give more, but you didn't, I think internally, at least for me, and I would presume for you as well, is like, then you don't really feel like you accomplished anything.
Yeah.
So
You don't feel like you did anything at all at that point.
Yeah.
You didn't
Even if
at all.
other people think that what you did was grand, it's like, but that's not like,
Yes.
we don't seek. Yeah, it's helpful to have support, and in maybe ego ways, like it does feel good to get that external validation, but ultimately at the end of the day, that doesn't overcome or take like precedent over you feeling like you actually gave your full effort, and finding ways to do that no matter what, I think is extremely important. I'd just add, second to that, or maybe even first to that, but like outside of running, finding my faith and finding a not necessarily like Christianity, but like, yeah, Christianity and like choosing Christ, that later in this year has been one of the most difficult challenges I've taken on in life, because it has forced me to reevaluate the perspective from which I view the world and the way that I move through it. Like, I'm just even seeing ways of like, wow, it's really making me change in ways that don't come naturally to me. And just simple things like loving your enemy or having self-control or doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you're called to do it. Like, just even taking those three things, man, that will take you on an adventure. That will take you on a journey. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to like where that leads you, but maybe not at first. But I think what I found is a ton of peace and a ton of like gratitude in knowing that, oh, so yeah, when I do this in running, I know putting myself in uncomfortable situations and doing things I don't want to do leads me to feeling a sense of peace about who I am and who I say I am and what I do and how those align. And then there's something really profound that happens when you do that on a spiritual level as well. And I know
Yeah,
you're going through something similar as well.
definitely. Yeah, and on that self control, I'm gonna tug on that a little bit, and no pun intended
Not
for
too
this next
hard.
point. Not no pun intended for this next point, but I think the biggest adversity I overcame outside of running was letting go of my addiction to masturbation and pornography. In I believe it was May or maybe June, somewhere in there. I'd been struggling with this, I think since about middle school. I was introduced to it by a friend, um, and as young boys, we almost appraise this behavior, and it's almost in our society looked at as cool. Um, but in the past few years, I've begun to perceive it as something that I shouldn't be doing, and something that, um, getting into my faith more is something that's like it's a huge sin. It's not something I should be doing at all. I should have the self control to deny my flesh and to um, you know uphold better values than that. So that was something that I had to overcome, and something I've been battling for years. Something that I took so casually and so unseriously, just growing up, and just because I thought it was something that guys do. You see it in Wolf of Wall Street, those type of things. It's like almost seen as casual, almost like routine for guys to do, and even women too. Um, but stepping away from that and being able to resist the urge, I think a big a big reason why it got easier for me to resist was how close I was getting to being married, and I didn't want to bring that into the marriage. I didn't want that to be something I had to think about during our wedding at all.
Mm.
So it's something that I felt was really important to fully step away from and to resist going into that. And since then, I have finally started to feel like I'm becoming the man that I should be and that I want to be. And it's something that was weighing heavily on me. It was like a monkey on my back. I think probably even like a gorilla. Um, but now I don't really have that guilt. I don't
Mm.
have that, that those feelings that I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. I'm not looking at these, images. I'm not, you know, satisfying myself and then feeling that guilt after, which is I think a big thing that in society um, we tend to find it easy to indulge ourselves without thinking about the repercussions until afterward. You feel the repercussions afterward, but you don't have the forethought to think about them. And I think with that instance, I was thinking about the repercussions beforehand. I just couldn't do anything about it because I didn't have the willpower, and I didn't
Mm.
have that connection with Christ, and I didn't have the ability. But you know, in that same vein, I don't think Christ is the one to have um, have prevented me from doing it to myself. Me battling my flesh. I think that Christ gave me the way out,
Mm.
and I just had to take it
Yeah.
and go with it, because there was a way out, and now you found it. So if you're struggling with that out there, and um, it's something that you've been battling with for a long time, like you're not alone, especially not in today's age. It's something that men have and women have been dealing with for eternity. Lust itself, and something that I still deal with on a daily basis. I don't act on it, but something that I have to talk to God about. And I would just I would strongly suggest like praying about it and talking to God about it, and you know building that relationship to have the tools to combat it when the time comes. And I think that's something that really was something I had to overcome, and the rest of the year turned out to be everything I could have asked for and more. Ended up marrying Natalie, celebrating with friends and family back in Minnesota, and then moving in together. Um, and now I don't have, any regrets about some of the things that took place along that journey. So
Yeah. I think the only
yeah.
thing I'd add to that is something to key on what you said is there's a sense of shame you felt in the act or the activity of doing it. And I think in culture, in the secular world that we live in, whether it's gluttony and using body positivity as something like that, or lust and using like your expression of yourself in this way,
Hmm.
there's a reason you feel shame, and it's an indicator. And for people who don't follow faith or don't really see themselves in that category, just I would encourage you to look at that and just reflect on that, because the world is telling you you shouldn't even feel shame. Like you should like embrace that, love that, and there's a reason you feel that way, and you should just take note of that, reflect on that feeling, and ask yourself why you feel that way. And that's probably
Hmm.
the best entry point for anybody who might not feel a connection to faith. Just ask yourself why you feel that way, and if you keep feeling that way, and the secular view of like, oh, you should just like don't feel that way, and that's not working for you, there's a reason it's not working for you. There's a reason that you feel
Yeah.
that way, and just I don't know, I encourage you to reflect on that and ask yourself, and pray, or just like think about that, write about that. Um,
Yeah. And I
so
think the reason why these entities prey on people's, shame and things that they can't resist is because there is an opportunity to take advantage of that monetarily
mm,
and
yeah,
to capitalize that. So yeah, I guess that's someone else to reflect on. Like if people are pushing this and you feel shame about it, you probably shouldn't align with it. Um, it's probably not something that you want to identify with, just because other people say it's okay. If you feel it's wrong in your heart, and if you feel like you get a bad feeling like in your stomach about it, it's probably not the right thing to do. I
right.
think that's just the rational perception about it. I think that some things you know are being normalized that shouldn't be, because there is an easy way to make money off of it. Um, but it's not always so easy to see for a lot of people that are stuck in that rut and want to feel comfortable, and take that the easy road rather than resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I guess with that, were there any big goals that you hit this year, or any you missed, and tying in like how you perceive how your last 365 days went? Um, I guess reflecting on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think they kind of tie in together, the goals that were hit and the goals that were missed. I left my job in March of this year. I think it
Hmm.
was March 8th. And the goal by doing that was kind of twofold, but it was to try and help build and sustain like a life that was financially, um, like a life in sports that was provided my freedom, and financially, and supported financially, and that I could build in providing for not just myself but my future spouse and family. um, and I didn't hit that goal per se. Like, I'm not financially only relying on running at this current time like I had hoped for, but it did provide me the time to start building some of those things in. Like I said, the runs that I did over the summer, where I spent two separate 2 week at a time runs and did vlogs every day for those. And um, so, like, it didn't per se like reach my goal of being fully reliant on running as my financial freedom. But I think it set the groundwork for being able to build that in 2025. So it's kind of like there's a lot of work to be done, but I feel like I laid some good foundation and allowing that goal to blossom in
Hmm.
ways. So that's all I'd probably say about my recap of 2024. Is there anything you want to add to yours?
Um, I would say that I accomplished a lot of things I wanted to in terms of, running goals, marathon goals, half marathon goals, running my first 100K race, running my first 100-mile race. Um, and I guess a big one that came later on at the end of the year was being let go from my job and almost given the opportunity and the ability to seek employment elsewhere that I was more passionate about. I think that was a huge blessing and something that I was able to, I guess, I wouldn't say I've fully capitalized on it yet. I'm building in some foundation, some structure in there to better capitalize on it. Like, the connections I made down at TRE, the networking I've been doing in the running community. But I could really see myself working in the running industry in some way or another. And um, I made big steps towards that, but there's a lot of work to do. I think one of the first steps that I was recommended to by many of the folks at the running event and even in the running community was just to start at the local running store. So next week on Monday, I'm starting there part time for now at Salt Lake Running Company and getting that retail experience there. And I'm excited to interact with runners that are beginning their journeys, maybe on the verge of beginning their journeys. They're intimidated by the sport, maybe, or stepping into the running store, and interacting with those that have 20, 30 years of experience running, and want to hear my opinion on what they should run in, um, from gear to gels to anything like that, and kind of just share what I have to offer and train in on some of the things there. So excited about that. And I'm really, really proud of securing that auto qualification into UTMB. I ended up signing up for that race. I signed up, I think, like 2 weeks ago, I believe, maybe a week and a half ago. So I'm officially signed up for UTMB next year. Didn't get into the Hard Rock lottery, didn't get into Western States. So no luck on those. I had less than a percent chance in both of those. So I wasn't really expecting it and didn't really want to run those this year since I know I haven't really built up the fitness where I want to be at to run those races. So really excited about UTMB in the coming year and the training so far has been good.
So we talked a little bit about last year, closing the loop on 2024. It sounds like it was a foundational year for both of us, and I
Definitely.
think even just like starting this podcast is a big foundational piece of us both recognizing that we are in no way where we perceive we want to be, and I think that's just like being able to sit here and say that and be not only hopeful about the future, but feel confident based on what we've put down as evidence and action of the last 365 days, 2 years. I think it's a real important piece is like, hey, that was a foundational year. Now let's try to build it in 2025. And I think both you and I have 2 races coming up that are going to be good testers for us to say, okay, this year is about making big strides and noise in our respective sports. So let's dive into a little bit of that. We can start with Black Canyon coming up next month. Or why don't we actually start with Arrowhead because it's coming up this month, and then we'll move into the next month. But I've got my first Arrowhead 135 race coming up in like 3 weeks.
Let's go.
It is wild. It is wild.
That's hype, dude.
I got asked, well, for those that are, I don't think we have spent too much time talking about it, but Arrowhead 135 is one of the toughest 50 ultras in the world, or it claims to be. I believe it to be as well. But it's 135 miles from International Falls, Minnesota, down to Tower, Minnesota, minus 40-degree weather. You pull everything on a sled behind you. There's a bunch of required gear that you need: a tracker, 0-degree sleeping bag, stuff to boil snow, a certain amount of calories, water, everything you start with, you got to finish with as far as gear, finishing with 1,000 calories or more, a certain amount of liquids. So there's all these nuances that are very specific to that race. And then there's 3 total aid stations. Outside of those aid stations, no support, no outside support is allowed. So it's a really solo endeavor. It's one of those that I have feared signing up for in years past because of that like minus 40-degree weather all by yourself framework. It's kind of stunted me into going into that, but made the decision to do that. Where I feel right now, physically, I feel really confident about the running and the lifting that I've done leading up to this. I'd say spiritually, I think this race is going to challenge me in ways I've never been challenged before. And I really think that this faith journey and that challenging me in ways that I've never been challenged before is like, I see that as an opportunity to say, when I'm out there and I'm experiencing something new, I can look back on the things that I've done to be more self-controlled, to follow the faith in what it's calling me to do. I can look back on that and use that as a training piece. Oddly enough, there's 2 things that I'm not entirely confident with today that I will be after this weekend. It's my nutrition plan and my gear for that race. I have a sled. I decided to go with the Speedlands
SVT.
SVTs. And those I'm feeling confident about. And then there's some socks that I'm really feeling good about. It's the Hollow. They're Hollow socks. I'm trying to figure out how I got sent them. Somebody from the company sent me them, and I've checked my DMs, I've checked my text messages, I've checked my emails, and I haven't been able to find any. Yeah, they just showed up, but I know someone sent me them, so I'm trying to figure out how to get in touch with them. And then, the big concern is like gloves and layers, because with this race, based on the conversations I've had with past racers, there's 2 elements that if you fail at, you'll fail the race. The temperature game is the game. The temperature game is the game. That means when you start warming up, you got to take layers off. When you start getting cold, you got to put layers on. And it's that constant battle of trying to find that middle ground, and then keeping your liquids liquid. Because it's so cold, if you leave liquids outside of in range of your body temperature, it just freezes completely. So I would say those 2 things make me feel a little uncertain, only because I haven't done the work to mitigate that stress and that fear. It's still an unknown to me. So after this weekend, I'll feel pretty confident about that. And then it's like 2 weeks out after that, 2.5 weeks out. And I think it's an opportunity for me to step into a different world. I spent 3 years trying to get successful and good at the last person standing race, and I found success, and I learned a lot in those 3 years. And before you and I hit the record, we talked about some other races to maybe attract sponsors or attract potential, recognition from the ultra community at large. And I think this is a good starting point that I have access to, where this is deemed as one of the toughest 50 races in the ultra running world. It is an extreme race. It is one of those that gets put up on the like Moab 240, maybe not in the wider range of the ultra community, because that has become such a premier race. But I think in magnitude of significance, outside of just like a self put on challenge that I've done, this is an opportunity for me to step in and say, I can step into this world. I can deviate from the things that I've been known to be good at, and I can find success here. So I'm really going into this race with that mentality of like, I'm hungry. I am looking for an opportunity to prove that I am who I say I am, and then use that as a launch pad to go into the rest of the year and start signing up and at least getting on the waiting list of some of these other races like Moab, like Tahoe, like Big Bear 200. And so some of those other races. So I just threw a lot out there, but that's probably a good consensus of how I'm feeling going into this race.
I guess with the sled, what's the terrain like out there? That's a question that Natalie had asked me when she had heard that you were doing that. What if there isn't the snow you need to drag the sled? I mean, are you on a trail? Are you on the road? Like, what does this terrain look like? Is it like a gravel road that has snow on it? Like,
So it's a snowmobile trail. It is one of the
Okay.
main, like, up there in northern Minnesota. So International Falls is, I believe, the most northern point in the continual or continental United States. And it's also known to be the icebox of America. So it's cold and it's as far north in the United States as you can go. It's on a snowmobile trail, which is like their main highway in the wintertime because that's just how people up there get around. So it's gonna be hopefully snowy. I'm checking the weather right now, and like on Friday, January 17th, it says 19 degrees. Like it's all in the teens. I don't see a negative day coming up in the next 17 days. So it's really hit or miss, and that's one of the challenges of this race is like you don't know if it's going to be snowy. You don't know if it's going to be muddy. You don't know if it's going to be minus 40 degrees and super cold. You just don't know what you're going to get. And you won't know until pretty much race day or a day out because anything can happen.
so you're gonna have to come up there prepared for anything and just have all the supplies with you
Yeah.
and go from there.
Yeah.
So are you gonna be staying anywhere beforehand? Is there like a camping? What are you doing there?
No, so Lucy and I are going to go up. She's going to help volunteer at two of the aid stations. Her and I are going to volunteer and do
Oh,
gear
nice.
check at the beginning. So she'll be up there. We have a hotel in town on the night before, and then the 2 days after at the finish line, I think it's a casino, but it's like a casino resort. It's where the finish line is.
Yeah.
And so that's what, we'll be staying the night that I finish. But yeah, everything's all squared away in that regard. But yeah, anything can happen. So I don't know if I'm going to be pulling my sled on snow, on dirt, on mud, on, if it's rocky. For the most part, I don't think it's rocky, but like, pebbles and stuff. So
How
I
have you
guess we'll
been
see.
preparing to drag that sled? I know you had posted about getting a little tire pull going. Have you
I
done
haven't
anything
done
with
that yet. I
or-
have not done anything with that. I got those tires. I think it was on like the 8th or the 9th of December, and after that point, the miles started just picking up, and so I never got around to doing that. I do want to do that. Lucy's going to help me string together some tires.
She can just sit in the back of one of the tires, like a little tube.
I know. I don't anticipate the sled being too dissimilar from the stroller I was pulling all summer. So I do feel like I have a little bit of a competitive edge on knowing what it feels like to pull something for hundreds of miles. So that's not a big concern for me. But I think
That
getting out
edge would
and
be against those that haven't done the race before, though. Correct? Because I mean, if you have done the race before and you've pulled the sled, like isn't there a guy that you're friends with that has done it and he's won before and
Yes.
he's coming out again?
Yeah,
for,
he's
one of the categories.
Yeah, he's going to be doing the fully unsupported. I'm going to be doing the supported where you get to use the 3 aid stations. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I saw him on a run like a month ago. We ran into each other because we live like a mile from each other. And he said
And he
something.
was pulling 3 sleds.
Yeah, no. But he said something funny and interesting, and helped me maybe humble myself a little bit. Where he said one thing he learned was from John Storkamp, who's done this race 15 times. He won it his first time, showed up like when he's 25 years old. But there was I think a YouTube documentary that he said if you come into this race planning out how you're gonna win this race, planning out like times and like this person ran it in this time, that I can run it in this time. He's like, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And to be quite honest, I was doing a little bit of that, basing off of my Wausau run, 34 hours, 142 miles. I was like, okay, I'm running 135 miles. Can I do that in 34 hours? So I was doing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
but I don't think that's too bad. Like it's not my main focus. So I guess we'll find out. Just lay the foundation for what will come over the next couple weeks.
Maybe you should try doing that, and then like have a quote that like responds to him, like saying like, "I'm gonna take these numbers and shove it up your."
Yeah,
No, I'm
yeah,
kidding, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
No, definitely need to respect those that have raced before. I mean, if he's experienced it that many times, like
He
definitely
knows.
knows
Yeah.
a thing.
But
Or
it's
two.
funny because he won the first year he showed up. So it's like for him to say that, it's kind of ironic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I guess he probably gained some wisdom along the way, and realized that in a way or two, he probably had some luck there. But I mean, if you're gonna win this race, it's gonna take all the preparation in the world. And
yeah.
with that, how has your training changed at all? Has it stayed the same? Are you still doing the calendar club? Um, I know you had a little boo boo, like on the 31st or the 30th or something like that. And
Yeah. Playing soccer
were-
at JST. Um, yeah, my ankle's fine now. I think it was just something weird that happened connecting with a ball, and colliding with Prince's foot, unfortunately.
Prince, let's go,
Yeah,
dude.
no.
The goat.
But the training has been pretty standard. 3 months of calendar club, which leads into January, where I'm beginning calendar club again, just as a way to stay consistent. And I think when I get to the 10th, I'll just do maybe 12. I'll hit 12 and then start going back down to 1. So just like a half of a calendar club month, but to send it down back. I still want to remain consistent and just be in a rhythm of consistency and running. But all the miles for the most part, I feel like are in my legs at this point. And I don't think there's going to be a ton of extra work that I'll pick up in that will really make that big of a difference. I'm still 3 weeks out, so I'm trying to find that middle ground. But I think what is most important is the gear, because that will take me out far quicker than the miles. I feel confident about the miles in my legs. I don't feel confident about the gear. So if I come away and think I have frostbite, like that'll take me out before the running will. So
Natalie's sneaking around back there.
sneaking around, but that's the 27th. We'll have more to talk about in that. And you got what, 2 weeks after that is Black Canyon, February
Yeah, it's
8th.
February 8th. Yep. Yeah, so training's been going well. Hit a 60-mile week, 60-mile week. Now I'm in the 80s, so I hit like an 82, 80. Starting to get a bit more specific with the terrain I'm training on. So sticking a little bit to more flat terrain, less vert, more runnable stuff. Got a really good workout in with my friend Adam on the LRT in Minnesota, and then I hit another one the following week. So good to get a nice flat sea level workout in to kind of assess where I was at pace wise, and what I could see myself being comfortable with, and comes race day after the fatigue set in. So really feeling the fatigue at this point. Realizing that that's temporary is important. I think that it can be discouraging to feel like you're a bit slower when training starts to ramp up and you start to put in more miles. But that's okay. I think that's your body telling you that it's okay to slow down a little bit and get that volume in. And it takes time to soak in that fatigue. And I've just been making sure to get in the necessary food and nutrition. I think that's important. If you're ramping up your training, you probably need to eat more than you were when you weren't ramping up your training. So I've been trying to eat more than I was, the past 3 weeks, and just on a higher frequency. Same food. I usually just eat, eggs in the morning with sourdough and sometimes avocado, and then Natalie and I usually do beef and rice for lunch and dinner, or a combination beef, rice, broccoli, something along those lines. Keeping it pretty basic and whole foods for the most part.
What
yeah.
what mileage a week are you doing right now? Is it like would you say you're in the middle of it or back end of it? Like what where are you at
Yeah,
with
so
that?
that's a good question. I just finished my last medium week. Now I got 3 big weeks, which means I'm going to be putting in probably more hours and mileage than I have in all of this training block in the next 3 weeks. So what that looks like is that I'll do a 2-hour run today, 3 hours tomorrow, 1.5 hours on Sunday, with like 30-minute double Sunday night. And then my biggest long run, I think, will be coming next weekend. Um, Either next weekend or the weekend following, where I'll be doing 5 hours and then, another long run the next day. So, um, and that's going to be at, an easy pace. I won't be pushing it too hard, but anywhere from 9 to 10 minutes per mile for 5 hours. So, going to get quite a bit of miles in, and hopefully my body reacts fine to it. It has been lately, but just continuing to, I don't have much stress going on right now, so I think that's a big contributor to why I've been feeling pretty decent. Haven't, been technically working yet, so I haven't had that work stress that a lot of people have to deal with. So, really grateful for that currently. But I guess with that, I'm a little bit nervous for all the volume to come, and how that's going to affect me. But knowing that, sticking to the plan and trusting it is probably just most important. And yeah, just getting really excited for it. Gonna be staying with my friend Adam and his girlfriend Christina, her grandparents down in Arizona. So it'll be fun staying with them for the race, and just sorting it out from there. He's ran it before, so he's got a little bit more experience. And our fitness, I'd say, is probably pretty similar right now. So I'm looking forward to racing him and hopefully getting to run with him for quite a bit during the race. In our workout, we were pushing each other, and it felt good to have that companion during a workout. In these, especially winter months, when you're doing solo workouts and doing a lot of solo mileage, having that companionship and having that other person to push you really is a good switch up, and really gives you a good idea of where you're at, especially if you're pushing and pulling each other and cueing off each other.
How's the communication with Hayden been?
Oh, it's been good. He's been so good about it. The people that he coaches, we've been having monthly meetings with him, hour long. He does probably
It's like
30,
full
40
groups.
minutes. It's a full group on
Nice.
Google Meet. He does like 30 to 40 minutes about talking on just like a subject that he thinks would be advantageous for us to hear about, and he kind of riffs on it. And then we have 20 minutes where we just ask questions. Like, it doesn't even have to pertain to the topic. We can just ask random questions. And he's been good about sending my training in, commenting on how I'm doing, adding in some tips here and there, sending voice memos. He's actually in Costa Rica right now, which is really cool. I think he's got a little opportunity down there for the new year with a brand or company. So he's really good at the business side of running, which I want to get more into. And I think that that starts with building a better personal brand for me. I think that's something going into this new year I want to hold as a priority. I think being consistent with a YouTube channel is probably number one for me, and then not necessarily posting all of it on social media, but doing the YouTube and then a Substack where I can write about my training and my running, I think is something that will allow me to fully explore my voice, and something that I haven't really touched on much. But I know a lot of runners are going that route now, just because with social media, I think a lot of people have found that the scrolling kind of has been detrimental to their brain in some ways or another, and you get on there and you get stuck on there, and these other platforms I think can be a bit more advantageous and beneficial to not only your audience but yourself too.
Yeah.
I think there leads, you have a lot more creative power, in my opinion, uploading on YouTube and having that long form ability. Just in my opinion, I think that's a cool format. And then the Substack with writing about your running, gives you a platform to have people hear your voice, not necessarily hear it, but read about it. And I think that's something that's cool that I want to get into more. I guess with that, and this will probably help us going into this next year and the year after, is just building that personal brand and acquiring sponsorship and different deals in that way. And something that I heard on a podcast recently, Second Nature, Aaron Lutzy, he had formerly worked for Red Bull. It's a podcast with Dylan Bowman and him that they talk about like the business side of running, and sports in general. I guess mountain biking, that type of thing. And it was a podcast with Aaron Lutzy and Matt Trappy and I believe another individual. I just had listened to the first portion of it, but I think they had kind of touched on in today's age and like in the years going forward, being just a runner or just an athlete is kind of going away as a whole. You have to be able to provide value now for these brands in other ways. And I think the biggest thing they touched on was like content creation and having those platforms and having that YouTube channel and having an audience that you can kind of fall back on individually, where unless you're top of the pile and winning every single race, you kind of have an obligation to now fulfill for these brands to show them why they can spend money on you and how they can get these budgets approved. And I think it goes back to having those different things that you can play off of your YouTube channel, your Substack, like different things where you can garner an audience and connect with them in an authentic way. And I think that's something that I've kind of looked up to you in that way. Like you've kind of taken the reins on that in the past few years and grown your channel now to over 20,000 subscribers in less than 2.5 years, 2 years. I think that's something that's, super cool. And I think that, going forward, it's going to be even bigger thing to have that audience and continue to be consistent with that. I guess with that, in sponsorships, something that I wanted to touch on a little bit was just like some of the things that we've had going on recently. I think one of the bigger ones that came out of TRE, I had met a marketing support person by the name of Erica with Theodora there, and we connected on our love for like ultra running. She had done Javelina 100 before, and she ended up. I thought we connected, and she hooked me up with a hat while I was there, and then said she'd send me a few pairs of shoes to try out. Little did I know, a package came in the mail that was 35 pounds, and this box was like almost not able to be picked up by one man at a time. So got a bunch of gear that Natalie and I have been trying out. That's just been awesome. This sweatshirt's one of them. It's more of like a streetwear style sweatshirt with the matching
Oh, that's
sweatpants.
cool. He's got it all on, folks.
Yes, sir. A few hats, winter gear. I got, a few pairs of shoes from them. Trail running shoe, road running shoe, and then Natalie got a pair of road running, trail running shoes, a bunch of, miscellaneous shirts and all those things. Even underwear, which is pretty funny. Theodora underwear. Bunch of random stuff, cowbells, stickers, mug, which I'm really like, I'm so grateful for it because I'm not someone she probably, obviously had on her radar before to, hook up. It's something that like she just went out of her way to provide me with, and I'm really grateful for that. And there's no expectation, I think, going into it for me to push the brand to anybody or to advertise for them. It's just her kind of showing her appreciation for me and wanting to see if I enjoyed any of their stuff or not, which seemed really genuine and authentic. And so far I've been liking their winter gear for sure. I'd probably liken it to, it's pretty similar to like craft sportswear gear mixed with Tracksmith. And I think overall I'm just pretty happy with everything that came out of that.
Do you feel, just on that real quick, and this is a question I wonder myself, is like when you get sent gear, what do you feel an obligation to post about it, or how do you think about trying to, because there's a relationship there that's been started, right? What are the next steps in that relationship? I mean, that's something that I'm asking for myself as well, because that's something I'm going through, is like, what do you feel is that next step in building a stronger relationship?
Yeah, I think number one, I think I have to see myself and enjoy myself using the product. first and foremost. So in the past few weeks, I've been trying it out and testing it on different runs, different activities to see if I actually like enjoy it. From there, I would say that if I can vouch for the product, then I also would need to be able to vouch for the brand itself and to identify, with the brand and some like the values that they have. And if, I think that their story is compelling, and that my story aligns in a way, then I'd probably start to, you know, mention the gear more. Either it could be a Strava post, it could be an Instagram post, and just like mention that I'm using it
Yeah.
and that like, some of the things I like about it. But I guess in the reverse way, if I don't end up liking the gear, or if I don't end up aligning, properly with the brand, or I don't see myself working with them further, I probably would, highlight that I'm thankful and grateful that I was sent this gear. It ended up not being for me, and it'd probably not something that I'd want to explore further,
Yeah.
a relationship I want to explore further. But I guess an example I can kind of pull from this circumstance was like I didn't really have the best experience with their trail running shoes, so I probably wouldn't, necessarily recommend those to others in the way that I would use them, just based on my experience. But with their winter running gear, like their clothes, their actual garments, like I enjoy running that gear. I think it's been good. Natalie's enjoyed running in it too. Like we find benefit in that, so that's something that I could like talk about more in terms of like the benefit you can maybe get from having to wear this just this one layer because it's warmer than having two layers on and not having to get two things dirty and
Right.
not having to wash two different things. But
So
yeah, I guess I haven't really gotten much back in terms of any obligation, so I'm not really feeling that pressure.
you're in that gear
I-
testing stage still.
I'm in the gear testing and kind of like organic feeling about it right now. I haven't like been pushed to advertise it. I guess another one that came out of
Yeah.
TRE was I forget if we talked about this at all on the previous podcast, but I might as well just bring it
I
up.
don't think we did.
Oh man,
It's a big one.
I think we should say this one for another time.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah. It's a deep dive. It's a
deep dive.
really cool, just to lay the groundwork for a future opportunity to talk about it. Super cool opportunity for Proct, where he got introduced to someone, and it lays a foundation for a really strong relationship outside of just like having gear sent. So
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
I just think
Exactly.
that it's worth a deeper dive conversation. So we'll save that. We'll tease that out.
Yeah. We'll table that one, and I want to jump into your deals that you've been working with and like partnerships, because I've been noticing an uptick of you posting about Creatures of Habit, and I'm familiar with some of their stuff. I know that our good friend Abby Storer,
Yep.
she's worked with them in the past. I'm not sure if she still works with them. And then a mutual of ours that I'm yet to meet in person, but I've seen a lot of their work online. I think previously worked with them, Scott Hickenlooper. He's
Yep.
making content right now on golfing a lot. I think he played a part in some way or another in some of their marketing stuff, content stuff this year. So talk about that more. I know your hat's Possessed to Run. That's one of their mottos. Or...
Not theirs actually.
No, it's not?
This
Okay.
got sent to me by not official.
Canceled. I'm
There's
canceled.
no
Never mind.
There's no Doubtle 10. Yeah, Creatures of Habit. So Abby and I got introduced to them around the same time through Scott. Scott was their marketing director at the time. He's now moved over to being a brand ambassador, and that lead role has gone to somebody else, Lindsay. So I was working with them in similar ways that like Abby was, where, well, I'll just speak for me. Like it was a strictly brand ambassador. You get a affiliate link, Dowdle 10. You get an affiliate link where people can buy their product and get 10% off using your code, and you get a certain amount of, earned revenue or earned commission back from that.
Yeah.
I was in the stage, probably this was like early summer before I went on those 2 runs, where I still hadn't really had any prior work experience with a brand. And the thought of, other than Yoakum Strength and Embrace North, that I felt like I could just post about organically, because it was something that I not only loved the act and the activity of participating in Embrace North and Yoakum Strength, but like those are 2 of my best friends, and talking about them is very organic. And so talking about a brand and really posting about a product was a little foreign to me. And so I never did it, and I never saw results from it. And so I stepped away when they wanted me to sign more of like a contract of like, all right, here's what our expectations are, posting and all that stuff. And I just wasn't ready to do that. And took some time to think about it, a couple months, and just realized that I was still using the product, still love the product, and figured I could find ways to have a more organic posting structure with it. And one of the things, I had hopped on a call with the marketing director, Lindsay, and just expressed to her my apprehension originally about posting. And she gave me some tips on how other people have found success, and how, like ultimately the reason I came back to talking to them was because I was still using the product every day. I still loved the product. And I think that was a good indicator of like, how can I share just that aspect to it? How can I share, this is what I wake up and eat every single day, and how can I just post about that and start from there? So I think that's really the uptick. There's no like official sponsorship, but I do think, and this is one thing that like I think is important, and something that I tried to avoid for a really long time. Brands, unless you're like like a Truett Haynes, or unless you're one of those guys where you have a massive following, you have really good content and a really good like personality and really good goal, like really high level goals that you're going off of. Not to say that you or I aren't, but like a Truett Haynes has 250,000 followers. He has the jeans bit and the dad bit. And so he has other things that like you or I don't have right now. And I think expecting a brand to come in and just pay me for the athletic endeavors that I'm going after is goes back to the Second Nature podcast of like, they're not going to do that anymore, especially when it's not in the traditional sense of what they have historically paid athletes to go out and do. And I'm not in that category. So if I want to build a relationship with a brand that I can eventually get to a sponsorship level with a brand that I like, I think humbling myself and realizing that, well, starting that relationship from whatever point I can have or possibly like create value for them and they create value for me, I think is just a slice of humble pie I needed to take in order to take steps in that direction. Because, I haven't sold a ton of Creatures of Habit. I've sold 2, but like if I can build that and have success and that grows, then they're going to want to pour gasoline on that fire because they see that there is value in moving me up to the next level. And I think that's an important piece that maybe took me too long to really grasp, is like, if you add value to people and to companies, then they have no choice but to give you other ways that they can receive that more in return, like amplify that as well. So that would be Creatures of Habit. And then I'm sort of in the but like gear testing phase with Legends, which is a clothing brand. I'm wearing their pants right now, actually. They're sweatpants. You can't really see them right now, but I sent him one. He told me to email him some gear that I wanted. I sent him one sweatshirt that I saw off their website, and he sent me sweatpants, a couple pairs of hat, a sweatshirt, these like windbreaker pants, and the gear is sick. It is sick. And I've tested it out on a few runs. It hasn't been wildly cold here. And I just got it before I went back home for the holidays, but
Sell out. Okay.
yeah, I'm selling out right now. No, but for real, like that's why I asked is like I really have started to enjoy the gear. I don't necessarily have an affiliate link, so I can't like I think just starting out is like posting it was like this is gear that I've been wearing and I've been really enjoying and seeing where that leads to. But I don't know. It's hard because in so many of my videos I just run shirtless or like so it's like for the run and plunges it's like less gear. But I think the takeaway from the sponsorship aspect of this is building foundation and taking a step into where you can and adding value where you're capable of doing right now is really important to building that relationship and growing it from there.
Boom.
So
Love that. Yeah. I guess with how small we are in the grand scheme of things and like the little attention that we have right now, mind you, like we're grateful for every bit of attention, all the viewers and all the support we're getting. Like, love you, Mom. Love you, Natalie. Kyle, know you're listening. Adam, know you're listening. All those people that are listening right now at the beginning stages. We're very thankful for. But with growth and with a bigger platform that I believe is inevitable for us, do you think that with that change and that growth that our transparency or honesty will begin to lessen because we're obligated to almost say less about the details and less about what's going on behind the scenes? And if not, how do we continue to, leverage that authenticity in a way that's, positive for both the brand and ourselves? I think that our biggest thing, starting out this podcast is that we want to share everything that we're doing, basically, everything that's happening in the background, so that people have a picture of what it takes to make some of these goals happen. And there's no questions asked. It's like we answer everything on here. We go into some topics that are sensitive to probably most people to talk about on a public platform. And we go into it unafraid because we realize the value and the importance of having that voice and the power that you have in your voice. You can't lose that. You're the only one that can take it away from yourself. So I guess, do you have any thoughts on that? And would it be a deal breaker if a brand basically told you that you weren't able to go into the details about, what's being provided, how we operate when it comes to influencers or ambassadors or content creators or those contracts and some of those steps that, we would usually talk about, but we're almost, handicapped in a way?
I that's a good question. I think it depends. I think first things first is like we're fish, we're not the whales. So like I just brought up Truett Haynes. He's probably a whale in the category of like self-made challenges and before we hopped on, I talked about Annie Hughes, and she is like all of us are in the same age range. And Annie Hughes is in your category, Truett Haynes is in my category, and they're getting paid right now by sponsors. We're not. So I think what's important to recognize is that it sucks to say this because it comes with the struggle of its own. Not to say that they don't have struggle, because they do, but like our path to getting paid is going to be much more diligent over a period of time, that more people are going to be able to take our path because our path is, I don't want to say like common man, but like there's only a few Truett Haynes, there's only a few Annie Hughes, right? There's going to be more people like us, and we can pave the path to allow people to take the path we're taking because it's that's what it calls for. I think in terms of like getting into the nitty gritty details, I don't think I'd ever need to talk about the other ambassadors or the other process that's in place for them, or talk about like um, disclosed information about how the company operates or the product operates. I mean, I've I'm looking at my Shopify for Creatures of Habit. I've had 177 visits. I've had 2 sales, and that's about $21. That's what I've made. So like as transparently as I can, that's on my end of things, and I think I can completely own and talk about the details that involve just me. I think if a brand ever wanted to like share I couldn't share that, well then maybe that would be a chance to be like, well, my whole thing is transparency, and how can we work together to, you know, how can we work together to make this work when I think it benefits both us, our audience, and a company. It's not it's an opportunity for all three people to win, all three boxes to win. And I think transparency only builds confidence and trust. And I think where we saw a great example of where that broke down was with the gels. I never tried them, but what those gels that came back that weren't actually as calorie dense, right?
Oh, Spring Energy gels. Yeah.
Spring Energy is like, that was a clear moment where transparency was not taken seriously for whatever reason. I don't know the details, but it broke down a ton of trust. And not that we want to give away information that is crucial to the operation of the business or how they do things. There's clear guidelines and understanding of wanting to make sure that that privacy is kept with the utmost respect to the businesses that they're running. But I think there's a level of like, I should be able to share how many sales I've made. Like that doesn't hurt the company in any way.
Yeah.
So I think there's a middle ground. But what do you think?
Man, I've thought about this a lot, and like I kind of wish everything was out there.
Me too.
I think that'd be really cool. I mean, I've dreamt about being like the first professional ultra runner where my contract is basically like an NFL player's, where you can know everything about it if you wanted to, you know. Like I want that information to be out there.
Yeah.
I want people. I'm fine with people knowing how much I make. I'm fine with people knowing the incentives I have. Like I don't want to hide from that. I don't want the brand to even have to hide from that, because they're just limiting the abilities of other players in the game or other athletes that they may have on their roster. I think that it's disadvantageous to the people that are, you know, helping to bring you along by like not sharing that information and not having that as public. And I think as this sport becomes more professional, I foresee that being something that we can I don't know if we can bet on it in the future, but there's a good chance that in the future we'll like have more transparency when it comes to salaries and benefits that you're getting from these contracts. But like I've always been a proponent of, I think you should share everything. Honestly, like I don't see any. Well, I see that there's a benefit maybe to have like some mystique or some mystery in terms of like what you're making, or like it feels cool to like people don't know, or like, oh, I make like I make 20K, but people think I make like 6 figures. Like that's cool, buddy.
All right. Well,
But
two questions there for you. The first would be, do you think that these professional runners are making more or less than what is perceived? And then my second question would be, do you think the fact that it's not like an NFL contract is benefiting the corporations more than the athletes at this point? Like, who do you think is
yeah. It benefits the corporations way more that it's not like the athletes, because then the athletes don't have leverage to
right?
work with that information. But I do think that they're making a lot less than what maybe some people would think, maybe more than some people would think. But I think the average for a professional ultra runner, oh man, like if you're an actual if you actually get compensation money, like not just gear and all that crap, um, you're probably making between uh like 2 grand a year to like I'm gonna say like most people are probably 2 to 20K a year.
Really?
Like that's probably most contracts. For that's like why all of these ultra runners they need another income to supplement it or another
Like
like a full-time
coaching or
job
something.
or coaching or like an actual full-time job. In most cases, on the higher end, there's like probably I don't know. I would guess like maybe 5 to 10 people that are making 100K plus a year, maybe, but probably mostly in terms of like their contract's full worth. Um, like 2 to 3 year contract for 100K might be a deal that some people are getting.
Like you think Courtney
Just
Dauwalter's making 100K?
yeah, I'd say she's probably making around 100 to 250. Um, but like that's the best of the best in the sport.
Yeah,
That's literally
yeah.
the
Which is
best in the
which is
sport.
nothing. Like if you
Like
think about the
yeah.
best of the best in the sport making 100K a year, that's wild.
No,
Now we
yeah. I
don't
mean,
know if
you
that's true or
you
not,
think
but
you think of like the top earners at like a sales like a pyramid scheme company. They're probably making more than that.
yeah.
Um, so that's just the reality of it right now. And I think that with that being sponsored in our cases are probably not going to be enough. So we kind of have to have our own channels of income that we can make that money from.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one would just, the social media, the YouTube, having that independence from the brand is important as well, to have your own personal brand. Because say like you lose your deal, after a bad year of racing or a bad year of, events that you haven't reached your goals or, acquired the viewership or the clicks or the likes that you were obligated to, then you kind of got to go back to what you can rely on independently. And in a lot of cases, like it would just have to be your own brand.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess going back to what we were initially talking about, I think that everything should just be transparent, but I know that's not the way that businesses operate, and they want to take advantage of their assets in a way that they're making a profit. Obviously, that's the goal, but also so that they can make as much as possible without showing other people how much they're paying other people, which is unfortunate. But on a high note, last thing I wanted to highlight of this episode, we're already at an hour and 30 deep. Oh man. Trails with Zach, our good friend Zachary Frisch. I would consider him one of my best friends at this point now. We connected over a DM. I think I had sent I'd seen his content on my Instagram feed. I think earlier this year I connected with him and said I was moving out to Salt Lake, want to run sometime, and since then we've just kind of, almost become like two peas in a pod in terms of like the energy we bring together. Kind of we match each other's energy. And with that being said, I mean, he had a goal this year of 1,000,000 feet of vertical gain, all on trails, by foot, not by ski, because skiing's a lot easier, obviously, if you can ski down. He did it by foot. He ended up achieving this mid-December to like December 21st, I believe. I think it was December 20th. He made a final push on the Y Trail. It's the trail right near BYU's campus that goes up to like the big Y on the hill, and it's like a switchbacks. There's like 13 switchbacks, so it's easy to get a lot of vert in a short amount of time. So in a little over 2 miles, out and back total, you can get like a little over 1,000 feet of vert. So he made a push to hit an Everest amount of vert in a day. I think it ended up being a little bit over a day because there was an hour hour segment where the news came and they were doing interviews and a bunch of stuff. Um, but I ended up going there from, I think I spent 2 or 3 laps the night of when he started the day. He started at like 11 a.m. on a Friday, um, and went until the next day. Showed up with Natalie for a few laps that night. And if I weren't training for Black Canyon right now, deep in my block, I would have been there all night with him through all the laps and had like an end of the year big push too with him and stuck with it. But unfortunately, I'm kind of just sticking to my plan right now and kind of having to sacrifice some of these moments and connections in a way. But I made sure to show up the next morning as well. I hit my 3-hour run on a trail close by in the morning, and then showed up and hit like 2 or 3 laps to close out his day with him. And it was awesome, man. It reminded me of our 24-hour or 25-hour laps around Lake Harriet. So many people came out. His family, his wife's family, Jill's family, so many friends, so many followers. It was really cool. One of the coolest things I thought was that there was a lot of people out there on the trail that wouldn't say a word to him or acknowledge him, but they were there because they knew what was going on, and they wanted to show up with their family to kind of witness it. But they were like almost quiet in that they didn't say hi to him, they didn't say like good job or anything. They just kind of just like brushing shoulders and like wanting to be a part of it in a way that didn't involve them having to be like running up and down this trail or hiking at a clip that they couldn't keep up with. It was just like a family event that they wanted to be a part of and like show their kids that like this guy is going out and doing this and achieving this hard thing, and like all these people are coming together to support him. So I thought that was like a really cool moment to see, like all the people that were there to witness it and came out, and like people that had never even met him before but were followers of him and kind of had seen like what he had been doing and wanted to be a part of something special like that. It was really awesome. And it was cool that Jill was there the whole like day and night and like sleeping in the car and like, making food for him, preparing stuff. And then there's a random guy he had never met before show up in the morning and make pancakes for everybody like the entire day.
Are you
like,
serious?
He had never even met him before. He just got a
Oh my
DM
gosh.
saying like, I'll show up and make pancakes for you guys. Like,
That's great.
super cool. I think the news came the first day, talked about how he's gonna feel afterward, and he's like, I just take like moment by moment, and like this probably won't change much. Like I'll still enjoy like getting out on the trails and just being out in nature with my friends and stuff. And this is just something that I wanted to like bring people together for, and it ended up being a huge success. It was really cool to see the last lap. It was unbelievable. The last lap, he ran like usually all the other laps. I think we basically hiked up and ran down because it's pretty steep grade to run. The last lap, he ran the entire thing up and down. Like he dropped everybody but 3 people, and there was like a group of 20, 25, and these people were on their second lap of the day. He was on his 25th lap. He literally dropped these guys because he was feeling so good.
Yeah.
And he was like, in his like most painful, probably like most like tired state at that point, like but also like he could see the finish line, and he probably felt like that adrenaline pumping.
Yeah.
And he like dropped like everybody. It was insane to see. It was so crazy. And just like his nature out there was really something that I kind of like took note of, in that he would like say thank you for like all the like people like congratulating him and kind of supporting him, but like he loves to reflect it back on that person and like kind of give thanks to like all the good things that they've done and kind of show like all the good things that they've done. And like an easy example of this is like people are walking by, they're not even acknowledging us, like they're just saying hi, but he's telling them good work, good job. He's like freaking 25 hours deep, but he's like still has a presence of mind to like support people that are also like, maybe it's their one lap of the day, it's like hard for them to accomplish going up this trail, because it is a hard trail to go up for one time and go down one time. Like it takes a lot of effort, and like has the presence of mind to even like not just like stick internally, but to kind of shine his light on other people. And maybe make someone smile because they got a good work or a good job, or like it's nice seeing you today, like nice seeing you out here today, which is really cool to see. And then like he ended up having like a little sprint finish, and it was really cool. There's a lot of younger kids there, like little like toddlers and kids that probably didn't even know what was going on, but they were like, I could hear them when they were talking to each other, like gossiping. They're like, Zach just did like 24, 25 laps, like he just hit 1,000,000 feet of vert in the year. Like they were just talking about it together, like, but they were like 4 years old.
Yeah,
They were like
yeah.
off in the corner talking about it.
They're
which is,
stoked.
like, they were stoked about it, and they probably they didn't even realize like what actually happened and like
yeah.
how much that took from him to do. They just knew that he was doing something fun for the day, and people were talking about it, and there was a lot of people there. So really proud of him and really happy that he's able to accomplish it. It took a lot of sacrifice. I mean, I think he quit his job basically to do it. So he's also like in our position too. Like he basically quit his job for that goal, and like, you know,
We're
he's
either
basically
we're
like-
either the 3 biggest knuckleheads, or
oh,
it'll
man,
all be
like,
worth it in the end.
It's so funny. It's like, oh man, like he would like to be like, a sponsored athlete at some point, I think too, but not in the way that, I don't know. It's interesting because now it seems like he's catching the race bug now too a little bit. I don't think he ever felt like he was that competitive of a person, on the trails. Like he didn't want to race, but yeah, I'm really proud of him. And I think a big project that we kind of scoped out for next year, it's still in the works. It's a possibility, not set in stone yet, but him, myself, and then our friend Mike Cappy. For the time being, we have kind of put the goal out there to run the rim to rim to rim again, but do it as fast as our group collectively can together, and see like what kind of time we can put up. It won't be anything close to the FKT. It won't be anything close to like probably the 5th to 10th FKT on there, but just something like we wanted to like do and kind of like see what training for that type of thing could result in, and just like having that trip or adventure together would be cool. So we're planning on that probably in April to early May when the Grand Canyon's still cool enough to even run down there. But yeah,
Super cool.
Any comments on any of that, or anything that I know that you wanted to be there in some capacity. I know that travel plans didn't really line up, but yeah, I think it was cool to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few questions, but you had answered them already. I was gonna see what his mindset was like, what his energy was like, but you answered that. I think,
Dude, he's always so positive, man. It's so cool to see. Like he doesn't really, he's so mentally strong that nothing really is an obstacle to him, which is really awesome. Yeah.
he's got a goofy energy too. He's been
He's
commenting
goofy,
on
yes.
some of my posts lately, and it's I
a
always
goofball.
laugh when he comes up. But yeah, congrats to Zach. I think.
Oh, dude, this is funny. Wait, one second. Oh my gosh, this is funny. So he's like kind of friends with at this point in the episode, it's like late in the episode, so if anyone's listening to this is whatever.
Yeah.
He's kind of friends with what's his name? Like Rob Semiante. I don't know his name.
Okay. Is he a runner?
He's the the crew chief for Paul Johnson.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think he showed up. I wasn't there, but I think he was posing to show up at like 9 p.m. on the first night. And he's like, oh my gosh, I wish Dowdle was here.
Oh
And
God.
it's so funny. Oh my gosh. He's like, get Dowdle on the phone.
You should have called me.
No.
Should have called me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. But that was just like that was just something funny that I thought was hilarious with like the beef going on. He's like, you should ask him about why he's not
Racing?
yeah, why he's not racing Dowdle, or why he was put in the trailer for the for
Did
the,
he
whatever
did he
it was.
talk? Did he show up?
I don't know if he did or not. I wasn't there, but yeah, that was funny. I think he used his watch actually for the Bear 100. Zach did. Yes, sir.
I'd be interested to hear if he showed up or not. That would be
Yes, sir.
cool. Well, this is episode 8.
The longest episode yet in some
Yeah.
fashion.
Well, we had a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on, a lot of dead space between our last episode we had to make up for. So,
Well, the viewers won't know that because it'll be uploaded close to each other.
yeah, there'll be
They'll know
3
that.
in a row here.
Natalie will know that.
All right.